Broncos lose a key weapon and a popular teammate for the season. Plus, the Dolphins went swimming in deep water and are going to pay for it. I'm Joe Dolan, and this is the Fantasy Points Daily Lineup for Wednesday, August 3rd, 2022.
It's time for the FantasyPoints.com Daily Lineup. Staying on top of the latest news and updates around the NFL. Rise and shine, folks. We're taking the field. Here's your host, FantasyPoints.com's Joe Dolan.
Starting at quarterback today for us is a player with a lot on the line this year. The Giants' Daniel Jones. Now, Dan Dimes had his best day of training camp on Tuesday, according to Art Stapleton of the Bergen Record and Dan Duggan of The Athletic. And multiple beat writers echoed this sentiment. My guy, Jordan Renan from ESPN, tweeted that Jones was absolutely tearing it up at practice. And just one day before yesterday's practice, Dan Duggan wrote in his column for The Athletic that it would be, quote, it would be encouraging to see Jones have a practice where he shreds the defense. Well, by all accounts, he did that on Tuesday. Now, it's going to take a lot more than just one or two good practices for Giants fans and especially the rest of the NFL fandom to get legitimately excited about this offense. But there's no doubt that Jones is in a better spot to succeed now than he has been at any point in his entire career. Even if Jones is just a mild improvement over the guy he's been for his first three NFL seasons, this offense could surprise with an actual forward-thinking coach in Brian Daboll and some interesting weapons, and like rookie wide receiver Wan'Dale Robinson, who has been a standout at camp so far. Jones is one of our favorite QB2s to target in underdog drafts, where he's often a 13th round pick. Let's move to running back with one of the most divisive picks in fantasy football, Cam Akers of the LA Rams. Now, Coach Sean McVay recently said Akers has been getting more comfortable and caught up to speed after dealing with the Achilles tear last year, according to ESPN's Sarah Barshop. Of course, McVay is also making the media rounds hyping up Darrell Henderson, and he specifically brought Henderson's name up in an interview with Alex Marvez on SiriusXM on Tuesday, essentially talking about Henderson as if he's a co-starter with Akers. Now, McVay could really just be blowing smoke up our butts. I mean, he's typically preferred the one bell cow type back, and there's really no greater evidence of that than the fact that he handed Akers a big playoff workload last year, despite Akers averaging just 2.6 yards per carry during the playoffs as he was just recovered from the Achilles. Remember, Akers had 77 opportunities in 4 playoff games last year, which averages out to 19.25 per game. That is plenty of work to sustain RB1 production for fantasy. Still, Akers is one of the most divisive picks in fantasy football at his 3rd and 4th round ADP, given he did not look sharp in the playoffs, and Achilles tears essentially used to be career enders, especially for running backs. Our Dr. Edwin Porras told us his situation is really entirely unprecedented. So there is a lot of guesswork involved here, and I'm not afraid to admit it. You are guessing when it comes to Cam Akers. Zero RB enthusiasts have enjoyed drafting Darrell Henderson, of course, at his double-digit round ADP, but it's also worth noting that Henderson has struggled to stay on the field as well. For my tastes, I've enjoyed grabbing Henderson more in the best ball drafts that I've done because he's so much cheaper, but I've started to dabble in Akers at ADP just in case he's an exception to the rule, because this offense can certainly produce a league-winning running back. Now, Christian McCaffrey, speaking of league-winning running backs, he's in the news again. And look, he knows just as well as you do that he needs to stay on the field. And this offseason, he's changed his routine in an attempt to do so. In an interview with Josina Anderson posted on Anderson's Twitter, McCaffrey discussed not just staying on the field this year, but lengthening his career. To do this, he's incorporating gymnastics and more flexibility work into his daily routine, twice as much, he says, as opposed to merely doing track-style training. Adapt or die is the quote he used, which, I mean, I think it's a little morbid, but at least he's taking it seriously. But according to our Dr. Edwin Porras, the best way for CMC to prevent further soft tissue injuries is simply to take it easier in practice and not go 100% of the time when training. Something McCaffrey said was hard for him to do, but it's exactly what he and the Panthers plan to do now. Just rest him a little bit in practice. Don't go all out every day. Hey, look, for all of us who don't necessarily like to exercise, not going all out every day sounds really appealing to me. And look, Christian McCaffrey has actually been one of the easiest players for me to analyze for fantasy football this offseason because there's no real analysis to do with Christian McCaffrey. If he stays healthy, he's going to win you your league. There's really no evidence to the contrary. The problem is you have to be comfortable drafting him. Whether or not you are is up to you. I can't make that decision for you. I don't know if he's going to stay healthy. All I can tell you is that if he does, you're going to be basically drowning in money from all the leagues you're going to win. At wide receiver, the Broncos lost one of their key glue guys and a really underrated player in Tim Patrick. Patrick suffered a torn ACL on a non-contact injury on Tuesday, Mike Kliss of 9 News reported. The Broncos' worst fears were confirmed by an MRI, and regarded as perhaps the most popular player on the team, Patrick was extended this past offseason and was slated to be a fantastic number 3 target for Russell Wilson. Patrick scored 11 touchdowns over the last 2 seasons, and that's with atrocious quarterback play. Patrick was carrying a 10th round ADP on Underdog Fantasy as a popular stacking option with Russell Wilson. He was just so much easier to stack with Wilson than Jerry Jeudy or Cortland Sutton, and those guys' ADPs are certain to rise in the absence of Patrick. But by necessity, speedster KJ Hamler is going to be a very interesting player for the Broncos going forward. With the injury, Hamler's ADP is almost certain to rise, perhaps significantly, while someone like speedy rookie Montrell Washington from Samford has been really having a buzzy camp. So he's going to be someone that I'll be watching going forward. Hamler in particular has been a man on a mission this offseason. He's coming off a torn ACL of his own, which he suffered early in 2021. In addition to the injury, though, Hamler lost his grandmother during the season, a loss he admitted pushed him into severe depression. Hamler has been open about his struggles and believes that he has a new perspective on life. On the field, it's not a major leap to see him playing the Tyler Lockett role for Russell Wilson, though Jerry Jeudy fits that role well too and essentially has been getting drafted as such. Hamler is diminutive. He's 5'9" and 178 pounds, but he's got speed to burn, running 4.27 at the NFL Combine, much like Lockett, who ran a 4.4 40 at the Combine at 5'10" and 182 pounds. We're rooting for KJ Hamler. The Broncos need him. He's certainly somebody I'll be interested in for fantasy. Hollywood Brown is returning to practice for the Cardinals. Now, Brown will be eased back into practice after the Cardinals removed him from the non-football injury list with a hamstring injury, with Coach Cliff Kingsbury saying that the wideout might not be a full participant until next Monday in practice. Bob McManaman of the Arizona Republic reported on Tuesday. From my perspective, this is the smart move. The Cardinals have no reason to rush Brown back to practice outside of the fact that he's learning a new offense. But given that his services will be critical in the first 6 games of the season with DeAndre Hopkins suspended, and the fact that he already has built-in chemistry with quarterback Kyler Murray from their time together at Oklahoma, getting Brown 100% and then some before he appears in camp at fully is the wise decision for the Cardinals. Brown is consistently off the board at the 3rd and 4th round cusp at Underdog Best Ball drafts, and I think that's a really fair price to pay for Brown, especially if you're eyeing up stacking him with Kyler Murray. Now in our flex spot, the Miami Dolphins. I'm kind of cheating here by putting an entire team on the flex spot list, but it was the biggest NFL story on Tuesday. And if you're extremely cynical, the NFL dropping this on Tuesday after the news that came out Monday about Deshaun Watson probably makes some sense to you. Now, following an independent NFL investigation into allegations that the team tampered with Tom Brady while under contract with both the Patriots and Buccaneers, pretty brazen stuff here. I wonder how much of this is going on behind the scenes, by the way. Dolphins owner Stephen Ross has been suspended until October 17th. I don't know how you suspend an owner. I don't understand that. Your guess is as good as mine, okay? Well, he was also banned from all 2022 league meetings, and he was taken off all the league committees that he sat on. He was also fined $1.5 million, whatever that means to him. But additionally, the NFL did not find veracity to former coach Brian Flores' claims that Ross offered him money to lose games intentionally. Or at least if Ross did make that offer, he was joking when he did it. So there was no punishment for the tanking allegations. That is what's interesting from an NFL perspective. But for our purposes, the big news is Miami was stripped of its 2023 first-round pick and a 2024 third-round pick as a result of this investigation. Now, Miami was one of 5 teams, was being the operative word here, that had 2 first-round picks in 2023, all of whom do not have a surefire franchise quarterback on the roster. Houston, Detroit, Seattle, and Philadelphia are the others. The Dolphins still have the 49ers 2023 first-round pick, but moving up for a quarterback next year will now be significantly harder, if not impossible. No pressure to Tua Tagovailoa. I'm Joe Dolan, and that's the Fantasy Points Daily Lineup. Make sure you find me at fantasypoints.com for more with our regularly updated news feed. Have a good day, everyone.